Yes, hello, and welcome back to Too Young to Grieve. And today's episode, I'm very, very excited for, and is one that a lot of you have asked for as well. So, today's episode, we're going to dive into something that you sort of don't associate with grief, especially at the start, because you think that that's it, and your life is never, ever, you're not going to be able to live the same life again, which, to an extent, like I say, there is a life before and after grief. But this episode is all about how to rebuild your life after loss, how to find purpose again, and how to move forward when everything inside you feels like it's been completely turned upside down. So, this is a very, very big episode and one that I'm excited to get into because I know a lot of us that are grieving, especially at the start, do think that that is the end and there isn't much else for us. But there is. There is a new life that you can build around the grief. So I'm excited to get into this. Anyway, let's do it. And thank you again, as always, for all the support. For some of you coming up in your Spotify Wrapped, which was, crazy to see. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in and for sending me messages of things that you want covered and topics you want covered. So I appreciate it a lot. But yeah, let's get into this. So I want to be clear from the start as well. This isn't about bouncing back. A lot of people think, you just bounce back to your old version of yourself after grief and losing someone so close to you. I don't really love that phrase, to be honest, because it makes grief sound like something that you just sort of get over. And that is just not the case. With grief, you don't bounce back, you reshape. You have a new life, you rebuild, you become something new and someone new as a result of that loss and that grief. And that doesn't make you weak at all. It makes you human. That is literally it. You are human. You've gone through something very traumatic. You've gone through losing someone so close to you who you thought was going to be there for your life, going through big events together. That is grief. And you are human. So it's absolutely fine to understand that, you don't just go back to normal. You don't go back to that past version of yourself. You become the new version. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about here and how you can rebuild that new version to become just an amazing person overall. And maybe for some of you, unfortunately, you experienced loss, but maybe for some of you, turn into someone that you didn't think you were capable of. Because I'll be honest, a lot of my qualities that I've developed came after loss. A lot of the good things that happened to me came after loss, unfortunately. But you become a new person, you develop new skills, you develop new perspectives, and in some ways that can make you a better person as a result. So let's talk about how you can use those qualities to make the person that you've lost proud. Everything I'm about to share today isn't an instruction. Everyone grieves differently, everyone recovers differently, everyone rebuilds differently. But if something that I share today helps you, take it. If something doesn't, just leave it. If it doesn't apply to you, leave it. This episode is not about fixing you. It's about helping you to just breathe again and to rebuild that new life, like I say, for yourself and for others around you and for the person that you've lost. So let's talk about, before we dive into what you can do to rebuild, what things I'd recommend, what loss really takes. When you lose someone, people often think you just lose a person or you just lose that love, but you lose a version of your life too. As I say, you do. You lose, for example, the future that you imagined with that person by your side, the routines that you relied on potentially from that person, the identity that you were building maybe together, the sense of safety that you didn't even know you had until it was taken away, the motivation that you once felt maybe to do things and become something for that person, or the person that you were becoming as a result of that person helping you and shaping you to become that individual. And that's why a lot of grievers, and a lot of young grievers in particular, say, I don't even recognize myself anymore. And like I say, you're not broken for saying that or feeling that. It's because life happened. Like I say, something very traumatic happened to you, and it rewrote almost your blueprint without asking. There's a lot of psychology involved in loss and trauma. And when something so drastic happens like that, Your whole system, your whole blueprint does get rewritten, essentially. And that is very, very unsettling. It is. Life after loss feels like walking back into your house, for example. It feels like walking back into your house and finding that all the furniture has been moved all over the gaff. Everything is sort of familiar, but nothing feels the same because things have been moved about. And the hardest part of that is that everyone else is still living in the same house, like sort of nothing happened potentially. Your world changed, but theirs didn't. And I'm not talking about the same people that are living in the exact same house as you. I'm talking about the world. The world has changed. Your world has changed, but everyone else's hasn't because they're not grieving at this moment in time. And that's isolating in a way that is very hard to explain to people that haven't been through grief, and even to someone who's just getting new and has become new to grief. It's hard to explain how it feels, but through experiencing grief for over 4 years now, I get it. I get it a lot more, and that's something, and that's an analogy that I would use in how it actually feels. Then we've got something that we've covered before: the pressure to be okay again, the quiet pressure after loss to be okay. People want you to be strong, to move forward, to stay positive. But grief doesn't move on a schedule. It doesn't move on a timeline, and it's not something that you can just rush and get back to normality again. People might say, they'd want you to be happy. You're young, you've got your whole life ahead of you. They'd want you to live that. And they mean well. But while they mean well, those words don't just erase the pain or the loss that you've experienced. They don't rebuild your world hearing those things. The truth is, you're not meant to rebuild your life while your heart is in pieces and all over the gaff. You can't, it's like running. You can't run when you're injured. But moving slowly and recovering slowly does not mean that you are stuck. All it means is that you're healing. And while you're healing and while you're recovering slowly, once you do feel like you're back into a place where you can move forward again with the grief, that's where a lot of the time the purpose comes from. And you discover what it is you actually want to do with your life, and how you want to move forward with that grief, and what it inspires you to now pursue. So I want to talk about purpose and how grief can help you find your purpose. And as bad and as terrible as grief is, and no one wants to experience it, it can help you find things that you do want to pursue, and that is purpose. So let's talk about it, because social media and just the world as it is has completely misunderstood it and ruined it. Purpose isn't always a big fancy dream, $1 million company, a crazy house abroad somewhere. It's not always a fancy job title. It's not always a massive, spectacular, grand plan. After loss, you sort of gain a new perspective on life. And purpose often looks small before it even looks massive and big like that. So purpose for you at the start of your journey, or 1, 2, 3 years into your journey even, it might just look like getting out of bed when you don't want to, going for a walk, moving your body, feeding yourself with proper food, nutritious food, and not food that sort of comfort food, replying to a message that you wouldn't have done before, showing up to something that before you would have just not done, even when you don't feel like it. And that matters. That does matter. Because purpose isn't something that you just randomly find. And it's not something that, okay, I've lost this person, I know my purpose now. It's something that you're going to grow, and something that is just going to come out of nowhere, and you're going to be like, wow, I want to put my heart and soul into that and see where it goes. And you know what? It grows best when you're not in survival mode. And that survival mode that I've talked about, that fight or flight, that natural human response that happens after loss, it grows best when you're not in that survival mode. And you don't have to have your whole life figured out. Purpose just means you just need one reason to keep going today. So like I say, it doesn't have to be massive at the start, but sometimes purpose begins with a quiet thought. You know what? I've been through something traumatic. I have. Life isn't easy. I do have a new life with this grief. But you know what? I want my life to mean something. I do. And that thought on its own, that's enough to start. That's enough to pursue that new life and that new life of purpose. Because I tell you what, pursuing that new life with purpose in it will definitely 100% make that person that you have lost so proud of you. They're already proud of you, don't get me wrong, for showing up every single day after what has happened. They're so proud of you for that. And this new meaning of life and this new purpose that you will find is going to make them even more proud when you put your heart and soul into it. So that's just about purpose and how it doesn't have to be absolutely massive at the start. But what are things that can gently help you? Look, when you go through something like grief, it's not that you're just going to get this intense motivation to start a crazy company or build a product or build a brand. But what are things that, as I said, gently will help you discover that? And none of these, like I say, are rules. They're just things that can support you as you rebuild. So before we get into it, I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. Number 1, create simple structure. I've said this many times before, but when life doesn't feel safe, when the grief and the loss hits hard, your life can be all over the place. And that is natural. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't. You're thinking, what's going to happen next? Who's going to go next? But having that structure brings calm to your routine and will help you to understand where you want to go next. So we're not talking about strict routines, just simple anchors around your day. So for example, a walk every morning. I start my day every single day. I wake up, I get out of bed, I have a glass of water, and I go straight out for a walk. No matter the weather. It was literally pouring down with rain yesterday, and I still went out. And it's not just for the physical benefits of getting your steps in. It's the mental benefits as well. I don't have any podcasts, any music, any external factors involved. It's just me and walking outside in nature. I know in London there isn't as much nature as some other places, but being outside, that's all it takes. Give your mind some peace to start the morning so that you can get yourself ready for the day. That's just a simple habit you can start to include. You can start to include something like the gym, for example. If you're not a big fan of the gym, as much as I am, and I recommend it to everyone to build strength, something like Pilates, something like paddle with your friends. You know, something that is physically active, going to challenge your body physically, but also give you some form of routine in your weeks as well. Something that you know you've got scheduled in your diary every single week. And that's why the gym is brilliant, because we can all fit the gym in somewhere. For the mental and emotional benefit, something like journaling before bed. And it doesn't have to be these crazy things that I'm mentioning. It can also be something as simple as just calling someone every Sunday. If it's the same person, if it's different people that you haven't talked to in a while. Calling someone on that same time every Sunday. Your nervous system, scientifically, needs something that feels predictable when life isn't. And creating simple structure around simple anchors like this. These are just a few things that I've mentioned. But there are so many other things that you can just have in your structure and your routine to get more clarity and to get more safeness in your life so that you can then pursue that purpose and rebuild. Number 2, moving your body. Moving your body. It is so important. Grief sits in your body. Literally, scientifically, it sits in your body. People think it's just a mental thing. It's not. It's physical. It impacts everything. Movement helps release what your mind can't always explain. walking, simple habit, training, stretching even, mobility, breathing techniques. There's some brilliant breathing techniques out there that can help you massively. Not to distract, like I say. I've done it in the past, ran marathons, done high roxes, things like that, and looking back, potentially it was just a distraction, just to have my mind on something that wasn't grief. But this isn't that. This isn't to distract, this is to regulate your nervous system and your body so that you can get back and rebuild your life. Number 3, do things that make you feel alive. Grief makes you numb. It does. There are days at the start where you don't even feel anything. Absolutely nothing. And life has to wake you up again. It does. Whether it's chasing a dream you have of a business, whether it's chasing that dream relationship, that dream life that you want, whether it's chasing that or whether it's things like music, nature, learning new things, learning a language, learning a new skill, traveling, creativity. Creativity is one of the biggest things that's helped me massively. Starting content creation, it hasn't even felt like a job. It's felt like something that has been an outlet for me. But you don't have to start posting on social media. Creativity can be something like writing a poem. You can write a book. You can write songs. You can create videos. You can do anything that gives your mind a break and allows it to be creative and think about other things. And one of the biggest things, conversation. Having good conversations with people is one of the best things that you can do to make you feel alive. And the reason for that is connection. Human connection, especially when you're going through something like grief, is one of the best things that you can do to make you feel alive. You'll notice, you go for a coffee with someone, you go for some food, you go whatever. Having good conversations, potentially about the person, telling them about the person that you've lost, potentially talking about what you want to do with your life now, potentially talking about how you're struggling. Just having conversations can be so big. And it doesn't have to be anything deep. It can be just talking about random stuff. Not everything has to be deep. Sometimes joy is medicine too. Remember that. Listening to your favourite songs. Hiking a mountain. Learning something that you've always wanted to do but you've put off. All of those things I mentioned don't have to be deep. They don't have to be writing a song about the person you've lost. They can just be listening to music or writing your own music. Not everything has to be deep. Remember that. Number 4. If you want to rebuild your life again, you probably do need to change your environment sometimes. Sometimes healing doesn't come from thinking. As much as a lot of the gurus out there say, make sure that you're adding, so much thinking time all the time to reset. Sometimes healing doesn't come from that. Sometimes it comes from leaving the room or the environment that you broke in. Different spaces, different energy, different perspective. That's what changing your environment brings. New places can help you become someone new. And when I say that, I don't mean you have to pack up and move abroad. I mean, even just cleaning your room, moving your office somewhere else in the house, changing your environment, tidying it up. It brings new perspectives and it brings about change. If you keep repeating the same things in the same environment that broke you, it's a lot harder to change. That's what I've realised. Number 5, don't wait to feel ready. You probably won't feel ready. No one ever is ready. Sometimes you've just got to get stuck in, you've got to start and learn as you go. Readiness doesn't come before action. It comes after. Remember that. Take action and you'll begin to feel ready during it. Most of life, most of people's successes is done when they are afraid. You do things unsure, and confidence grows quietly over time because you won't feel ready. And especially after grief, there'll be times where you'll definitely not feel ready to do something new. But if you do it unsure, if you take the action, that confidence will grow and that purpose will grow over time. And you'll be able to rebuild your life much better by doing it when you don't feel ready. And the last point that I want to touch upon is one that I've sort of covered already. Choose connection over isolation. Now, at the start, you will have periods where you just want to be alone. You don't want to be around people. You want to be around the same similar people because that's what makes you feel comfortable. And that is absolutely fine. Again, like I say, you don't have to show up to events. You don't have to go out to things, go to meals that you don't want to go to. You are allowed to have your own time. But when it comes to building back up and strength again, strength isn't suffering alone. It's very hard to do things and rebuild alone. Connection does not make you weaker. It makes you human. Remember that. One message, one conversation, one person. You don't need everyone. You just need someone. That's what I'd say to you. You don't need to message every single person that messaged you. But that one person that you can confide in, that one person that you trust with everything, that one person who you know will be there for you whenever, you can drop them a message. And if there's more than one, again, absolutely brilliant. But if it's just one that you want to help you to get back on track, and you know will do that, drop them a message. Have that connection, because it will help massively. Now, those are just some things that can help you to rebuild and figure things out again. But I want to touch upon something that is completely natural after grief and after loss. And that is the fear of living again. Now, one of the hardest parts of rebuilding after loss is allowing yourself to feel things again, to care again, to care about people, to care about work, to care about your purpose, to care about loads of things. Because once you've been hurt, what happens is your instinct is to protect yourself. And I can look back on times where that has just been so prominent for me, where I've avoided things, I've not done things. And looking back, it was out of fear. It was out of the fear of being hurt again or losing something again. And that's a natural instinct, is to protect yourself, to not hope again, to not attach again, to not love too deeply because you think it could be lost again. But you know what? A numb life isn't a safe life. It's just quiet. It's just lonely. And don't get me wrong, there'll be times where you want to be alone and you just want your own peace of mind and your own thinking time. But that happening all the time is a very quiet and lonely life. And eventually that quiet becomes empty. And you deserve so much more than simply surviving your days, because you've survived every single day so far. You've gotten through yesterday and you're here again today. But you deserve so much more than just surviving. You deserve to do things, to feel things, to live a life that you want to live and remember. And I know that grief and loss can make you feel like you don't actually want that and you just want to live your days remembering them, crying, and not pursuing anything again. But there will come a point, where that isn't the case. And you do want to do something sensational with your life. And you can. Even if grief and loss has happened, you can do that. You can experience that. And you deserve it. So listen, a lot of people will beat around the bush and they won't tell you things about grief. But I want to make sure that you understand things at a point where I didn't. Some of you will be very new to your grief journey, and that's what this podcast is for. It's for community. It's for you to be heard, seen, understood. And it's to tell you and guide you through your grief journey. Because I didn't have that as such at the start, especially for you young grievers. That's what this podcast is for. So, look, life after grief, it doesn't look like your old life. I've said this many times before. It's a whole new life after grief. And that does hurt. It even hurts to say it. But different doesn't mean worse. I can assure you of that. All it means is new. It just means new. So you're now carrying a life forward that someone else didn't get to finish. Remember that. You are carrying the legacy of the person that you've lost now. So go make them proud. It's not a burden. Think of it as more of an honour. You're not rebuilding to forget them. You'll never forget them. So don't think that this rebuild is you just trying to forget them and move on. What you're rebuilding, your new life, is to carry them forward with you. Anything that you do from this point onwards is carrying their legacy on. It's carrying them forward with you. Because they didn't get to finish the rest of their life. So you're carrying them with the rest of yours. So make it a good one. Make it one to remember. Make it one that they'd love to see you live in. Because they're always with you. And they'd want to see you doing good things. Things you enjoy. Things that you just love doing. And like I say, for some of you, that's not going to be building a crazy business, building $1 million business, doing crazy things, becoming famous, all this stuff. For a lot of us after grief, we just want a simple life. We just want to do things that we can enjoy. And you'll figure out what that is for you. You'll find that purpose. But remember, whatever you do going forward, you're rebuilding to carry them with you as well. So make it enjoyable. Because you can have that new life after grief. You don't have to just survive. So if you feel lost right now, unmotivated, confused, empty, it does not mean you failed. You know what it means? It just means you're grieving. And purpose, fulfillment, feeling like you can live that new life doesn't arrive one day. It builds slowly. It builds quietly while you keep turning up and showing up anyway, even when you don't feel like it. Slow doesn't mean never. Different doesn't mean wrong. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. Remember those things. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. And you don't have to do it alone. So keep going. Keep showing up. Because you're going to be okay. And I'll see you next week.